be. Today, we're going to do a presentation on knowing your benefits. Please don't hesitate to ask any questions. If you have a question, other people probably have questions similar to yours. Those who are joining us live, please feel free to chat in if you have any questions. If you see my head in the little corner, it's just me reading your comments, and we'll try to answer those as we go. If we miss anything, Susie will be back in 2 weeks on November 19th. If you'd like to schedule a one-on-one appointment with her, please email me directly with a suggested time. I have a spreadsheet going with those sessions. If you have any other questions, let me know. Other than that, I will hand it over to Susie.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, and thank you for coming. We're going to spend an hour together this morning going through the presentation. Some of this stuff, if you've come in the past, you've seen before, but we do have some new information to share. And also want to make sure that you understand both of the plan options so that you are choosing the one that is best for you and your family. So you should all have a book in front of you, and we're going to jump from the presentation to the book. So I'll let you know when it's time to do that. And if you're watching via the video, hopefully you have that book. I believe it was sent out electronically. So you can refer to that as we go. Okay, so again, I'm Susie. If you have a question, just give a shout out and stop me away. So we're going to spend that hour focusing on what's new, because there are some changes, really positive ones that I want to share with you. I'm going to remind you of the terminology before we jump into the plan designs, remind you of your telemedicine benefit. Hopefully some of you have had an opportunity to use that. We're going to share a change to your dental carrier, and I'll walk you through that. And then just quick touch on your vision and dental benefits. Okay, so here's what's changing. Really super news, which Danielle has already alluded to. Your health plan options are not changing for 2020. You have two very good plans, and you will continue to have those available. And even better news is that your contributions are not going to change. That is not news that many employers are able to share with their folks during open enrollment season, right? Healthcare just continues to go up and up and up. So that is super news, and I'm really excited for you that you'll be able to have those same rates, even though the cost is going up. There are some mandates that the state has pushed through, which will enhance your health plan. So I'll tell you what those are. And you're going to have a new dental carrier come the first of the year, okay? The agency is going to move from Compton to the Guardian. The plan itself will be the same, but you'll have a different carrier, which is going to bring you a better benefit, and I'll explain that. Your New York State paid family leave law changes again, right? We know that that was a 4-year implementation, so each year it bumps up a little bit. So for 2020, the annual contribution that can come out of your paycheck has bumped up, but the benefit is also bumping up from 55% of every average weekly wage to the 60%. And then last but not least, your ancillary benefits. So that would be your short-term disability, your optional life that you can purchase, and your statutory New York State disability are moving to the Guardian. That doesn't mean a ton to you unless you were to experience a claim, then that claim would go through the Guardian instead of the previous carrier. And we want to remind you that this is open enrollment, so that's the time when you're able to make changes in your benefits. But because we're changing carriers on the optional life, there's going to be an open enrollment, and you can purchase voluntary life insurance or make a change without having to show evidence of insurability. Okay, so you won't have to do a medical questionnaire. It's just going to be a guarantee issue. Does that make sense? So it's a nice opportunity. If you don't currently have that benefit and would like to purchase it, you can do so, no questions. Okay. Okay, so let me just remind you, I'll go through these slides pretty quickly, just to remind you of the health insurance terminology, double S. So that we're all on the same page when we go through the plan designs. So a premium is what you pay for your health care coverage. It's no difference from an auto insurance premium or a home insurance, right? It's a monthly premium that you pay. Your employer pays for a very significant portion of that premium, and then your portion comes out of your paycheck on a pre-tax basis. A deductible, when you see it on a plan, is an amount that you're responsible for first before the plan begins to pay. Okay, not all services are subject to a deductible. Not all plans have a deductible. But when you see that, that means that you've got to pay that amount first. An embedded deductible. I'm sorry for having to turn around for those of you in the room and on the screen. An embedded deductible, and this will make more sense when we get to the plan designs. What that means, if a deductible is embedded and you have a family plan or a two-person plan, what that means is that the deductible is each person has their own individual deductible. That's what embedded means. Okay, so if you have a family plan, think of it like I have my deductible, spouse has his deductible, child has her deductible. That's what embedded means. High deductible plans are not embedded. And I'll show you that when we get there. Okay, co-insurance is simply, a share that you are responsible for so when you see the term co-insurance, if it says 20% co-insurance, that means that you would be responsible for 20% of an allowed amount and the plan would pay the other 80%. Okay, it usually comes in behind a deductible. And I'll show you that when we get there. A co-payment is simply a fixed amount that you're going to pay every time that you receive a service that is subject to a copay. So if you have the hybrid plan now, you go for an office visit, you're going to pay a copay every time you do that. Okay, and typically providers will ask for it up front because they can see it on your card. So they don't have to wait for a claim to process to know that you owe them that amount. So you'll see the little signs hanging up in doctors' offices. Copay expected at time of service. High deductible plan. Is anybody here on the high deductible plan? Yes, a couple of you? Okay, so then you know that a high deductible plan, it drives a lower premium because you're responsible for some of that cost before the plan pays. So that pushes the premium down. The bigger the deductible, the lower the premium. You do not have a big deductible here. Not in any way, shape, or form. So it's structured like this. The deductible is your responsibility first, then behind it usually comes a co-insurance, and then you pay that up until you hit an out-of-pocket max. And your out-of-pocket max is just what it sounds like. It's the most that you're going to pay out of your pocket in a given plan year. and all things count towards it. Your deductible, your co-payments, your co-insurance, all of those things are going into a bucket. And when you hit the out-of-pocket max for the year, everything would be covered in full thereafter. So it is a cap. Think of you have the worst case scenario ever. You only need to be concerned with your out-of-pocket max. That's the most that you can pay. It does not include your premium. Okay? And an embedded out-of-pocket max works similar to an embedded deductible. I'll tell you more about that when we get to the plans. It'll be easier to follow. Okay, questions so far? All right. Okay.
I'm just going to see if there's any. I don't see any.
So is anybody watching this live?
All those boxes up top.
Oh, okay, super. Okay, you have the same two plans for 2020 that you currently have, right? Your copay and deductible, PPO plan, hybrid plan, whatever you like to call it, right? Folks refer to it in a number of ways. And then your high deductible plan. So you still have those same two options. And what I want to do is walk you through the highlights of the plan design. So we're going to jump to the book. So if you'll flip to, if you go to page 6, you'll see the cost information for the first, or for both plans. Yeah.
For everybody who's watching live, the book is what I sent out in an email this morning.
Okay, so get out your book. Or get it up on your screen. Then you don't have to look at me the whole time. So this is the cost share. Should look exactly the same as it does now. And then if you flip the page, you'll find the actual Excelis plan summary. So I'm going to go through just the highlights. I'm not going to walk through every line. There's a ton here. We'll want you to understand the basics. So this is a Simply Blue hybrid. Hybrid, that word is used because it's a mix. It's got some features of a copay plan, and it's also got a deductible. So it's a blend. That's why they call it a hybrid. So with this plan, and I'm going to focus on your in-network benefits. Okay, you do have out-of-network benefits if you needed to use a provider that does not participate with Excelis, but you want to stay in this network. Your benefits are much, much stronger, and it's not difficult to do. The Excelis network is very strong. Okay, so we're going to focus on the in-network column. So you have here a $1,000 deductible single and a $3,000 family deductible. Now these deductibles are embedded. Okay, so think of it this way, family of 4. 1,000 for me, 1,000 for you, 1,000 for kid 1. And if we hit 3,000, the other family members would not have a deductible because the family is capped at 3. Does that make sense? Okay. If you were to meet that deductible, then the co-insurance would come in behind it, and you'd pay 20% of the allowed amount. The plan would pay $80 up until you hit your out-of-pocket max, $4,200. For single, $12,600 for a family. That's also embedded. So $4,200 for me, $4,200 for my spouse, so on. That's what embedded means. Think of it as everybody in the family has their own little individual plan. Okay? Now, that deductible and co-insurance only comes into play in certain circumstances. The main two are inpatient stay of any kind, whether that be a hospitalization or rehab or substance abuse, inpatient, and an outpatient surgery. Those are the two big ones. Otherwise, this is a copay plan. Okay? So if you don't have an inpatient stay or an outpatient procedure of some sort, you're probably just going to be dealing with copays. Does that make sense? Okay. Those copays are listed right below. Primary care visit would be a $25 copay, and any kind of specialist would be $40. So that's what you're dealing with, unless you incur those other services that would be subject to that deductible.
And well now it's also 25, correct? No. Is
That's
that 42?
That's an
Urgent
urgent care.
Urgent care, yeah.
Well, now
40.
it's 25. If you go
Well,
to
now it's
urgent care at
25.
Bassett, it's
It's
40.
40, right.
Some of
So
them
they're
will
different.
bill like a physician's office, and then it would be 25.
Right.
They bill it as an urgent care, 40.
And well now does 25.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay.
At this point.
That's good to know, yeah.
Okay, good.
I was on there and I was like, oh, it's only $25? And I'm like, yeah.
Okay, when you go through the remainder of these sheets, you're going to see the majority of items have a copay, but that inpatient stay or outpatient surgery will show deductible and co-insurance. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay, if you flip to page 6 of 6, it'll say down at the bottom. I want to show you, actually go to 5 of 6. Just want to show you what the emergency services look like. So at the bottom of that page, you'll see that an ER visit is a $150 copay. And then that urgent care, which flips onto the next page, is that 40, unless you're using
Well now.
the well now. Okay. Here's how the prescriptions work, which are here off to the right-hand side of the page. You are going to pay co-pays for your prescriptions, $5, $35, or $70, brand, generic, brand, and non-preferred brand. Those are the 3 tiers. That's for every 30-day supply that you receive. Okay, so you're going to pay those each month. Now, if you use mail order, you can get a 90-day supply and only pay 2 codes. That's an opportunity to save some money. Okay, that's the gist of it. There's a lot of detail here. So if you're looking for something very specific, you can probably find it here. If not, you could reach out to Danielle and we can figure that out for you. Any questions so far? You'll use Express Scripts.
How do people sign up for that or get more information for mail order prescriptions?
I believe that there should be a customer service number on the back of your card for pharmacy. And if the Express Scripts number is not there, they can give it to you. And we can also get some pamphlets for you. Okay, flip to the next page with me, which will be 1 of 6 now. This is the high deductible plan. Okay, this one works very differently, right? Here, and again, we're going to focus on in-network benefits. Here you have an $1,800 single deductible, $3,600 family deductible. Now, this is really important. This one is not embedded. What that means is if you are carrying a 2-person or family plan, you've got to meet the $3,600 before the plan moves to co-insurance. One person can do it, or you all can pitch in to do it, but you've got to meet it. So this is not embedded. It's not 1,800, 1,800. It's 36, unless you've got a single plan. Does that make sense? Okay. Once you meet the deductible, co-insurance comes in behind it, 10%. You'll pay 10, the plan's gonna pay 90, up until you hit your out-of-pocket max. Now you'll see down here, for a single plan, that's $3,600. That's your worst case scenario. You have $1 million neurosurgery. Most is coming out of your pocket, $3,600. That's not a bad deal. For family, it's $7,200. But there is an individual cap in place, which you'll see right below. Remember, this one's not embedded. So let's say you have a family of 4. Everybody's really healthy. Nobody's using the plan but dad. Dad would not be expected to push to the $7,200 himself. He individually would stop at $6,650. Okay, so that's a protection, if you will. Your family out-of-pocket max is not that much further than $6,650, but I have plans that are at $11,000. So that protection really helps in those cases. Does that make sense? Okay. So when you run through all of these services, you're going to see subject to deductible, subject to deductible. Everything's counting towards that deductible till you hit it. Now, the exception to that, which applies to both plans, is your preventive care. Covered in full by law, all plans. Okay, so your annual visit with your physician. Women also get their annual visit with their OBGYN. Immunizations, routine blood work, preventive testing done in accordance with age guidelines like mammographies, pap smears, colonoscopies. Preventive is covered in full, not subject to the deductible. End of story. Okay, so if you are somebody that is fortunate enough to be in good health, you do your annual visits every year. If you have a high deductible plan, you're not going to pay that, right? If you're only doing your preventive.
So what if you go in for a colonoscopy and they find something and they take care of it and then you come out and then you're thinking you're going in as preventative, but it's not going to be covered because they found something.
Yes. So this can happen.
Yes, I've seen it.
It happens all the time. So every insurance company is processing claims dependent solely upon a code, right? You'll see that encounter sheet that your doctor's got on his lap with a zillion numbers on it and he circles, right? That's what's getting submitted to the insurance company. So let's say you go there for your preventive colonoscopy because you turned 50 and now you've got to go, but they find something. They will often now circle this code that makes it look like it was diagnostic and not preventive. That does happen. In that situation, you can file an appeal with Excelis and say, hey, I did not go there because I had a problem. I went there because I turned 50 and my doctor told me I had to go do it. And they do often get overturned, not always. Okay, so know that you have that option. It's all about the codes. So when that happens, the battle is not with the insurance company. Your battle is with your physician, right? That's where you're gonna call. You're not gonna fight with Excelis, but they don't know. They don't care. They have a code and that's all they know. So you call your physician. I did that with my physician. I didn't even deal with the insurance company. I went for my annual visit that was on the books for a year. And while I was there, I said, oh, by the way, this thing has been bugging me. Oh, then she changed the code. So I called and said, I am not paying you. That appointment was scheduled for a year. You can't bill me for a diagnostic. You're right, throw away the bill. And they didn't give me a hard time. So at least try. Don't just automatically, pay a bill because you got it. Okay, so your preventive is covered in full. Now, here's how the RX works on this one. So if you go to, again, that 6 of 6, you see it off to the side. Okay, this is really important. With a high deductible plan, your drugs are subject to the deductible, which means you go pick up a prescription on February 2nd and the cost of it is $300. How much are you gonna pay? $300, right? Because it's subject to the deductible. The exception, well, let me finish. Once you hit the deductible, then drugs will turn over to copays. And you'll pay this $535.70 until you hit your out-of-pocket max. Now, the exception to that is the preventive drug rider. On the high deductible plan, there is a rider which says, if you take a drug that is on Excelis's preventive drug list, which is next in your packet, that drug is not subject to the deductible. You'll pay copays from day one. Okay, so that's really important. If you're thinking about going on a high deductible plan and you have a drug that you take, maybe high blood pressure, cholesterol, something that you're on all the time, you need to check to see if it's on the list, because then you know, okay, it's not subject to the deductible. I'm going to pay a copay instead, and that's a big deal, right? Okay, that's the gist of the two plans. Questions?
Is that generic? Is it not covered?
No. No, all tiers are on that list.
Can you repeat your question so they can hear?
Oh, yes. So someone in the room asked if the drugs on the preventive drug list are all generic. And the answer is no. The tier is not noted here, but this list includes tiers other than just generic. Okay, makes sense? So what happens is folks hear high deductible and that makes them nervous, right? But if you are in a position of being in fairly good health, you're doing all of your preventive services every year, which are covered in full, why pay a higher premium for the hybrid plan if you don't need it? Well, Susie, what if something unexpected happens and now I've got to come up with my deductible? That's where your HSA comes in. So you open an HSA and you take some of your savings that you realize by switching plans and you put it into an HSA on a pre-tax basis, and you start building that pot of money in the event something unexpected comes. You've now got a cushion. And we're going to talk more about HSAs and how they work.
Now, the HSA is only offered with a high deductible plan, correct?
Correct. Correct, by law.
Right, I just want everybody to know that.
Yeah, yeah. No, and I'm going to cover that when we get there. Yeah. Okay, any questions? All righty. Okay, so here are the mandates. Some of them are more significant than others, but the first and the last are the two really big ones for this year. The first is around behavioral health and substance abuse disorder. What that says, the gist of it is that you cannot be charged a specialist copay for having seen a substance abuse provider or mental health provider. You can only be charged a primary care physician copay. Okay, so right now you're probably paying $40, that's got to go to $25. Okay, so they're bringing it, you've probably heard of the mental health parity law, so bringing it in line with that. That's the big one there. Then the last one is the other really biggie. So for infertility treatment, this mandate is now going to cover 3 cycles of in vitro fertilization. That's huge, right? You know the dollars that are associated with that kind of treatment. And the plan has got to pay for storage. Okay, so if an individual is going to be receiving, let's say a male is going to be receiving some sort of radiation, he can have his sperm stored so that the radiation doesn't damage, and the plan's going to pay for that. So those are new. And then the others are not as impactful, but still important. Contraception, you can get a 12-month supply. Mammography, any medically necessary mammograms are going to be covered at $35, whereas 40 before, medically necessary. Maternal depression screening is going to be covered, and it can be covered under a baby's plan. Okay, so let's say the mom doesn't even have coverage, but the baby's got coverage. If the pediatrician says, you don't seem to be doing so well here, and does a screening, that the baby's plan can pay for it. Okay, so that's a good thing. And then must cover I can't say that word right, prophylaxis and HIV screening with no cost share. So all those things are in your plan per state mandate. Okay? All right, telemedicine. Who remembers what telemedicine is? Yay. So telemedicine is an opportunity for you to have a visit with a physician anytime, anywhere, using technology. So instead of driving to an urgent care or the physician's office, you could have a FaceTime-like visit. You can do a landline call, but there's no visual there, so I don't think it's quite as effective. Using your smartphone, your computer, sitting in your living room, laying in your bed, and that will save you money, time, inconvenience. It's a super benefit. There's a page in your booklet about telemedicine. The Excellus flyer is in there. So telemedicine is a super option for non-emergent issues. Right? You're not going to do that if you think you've broken a bone or you may be suffering a heart attack. But if you have a rash or pink eye, telemedicine is a super option. The cost, if you're on the hybrid plan, it would be a $10 copay. So that's better than $40, right, for an urgent care. And if you're on the high deductible, the cost is $40. Which is better than probably about $150 if you go to the urgent care and you have to pay the whole deal. Okay, so I encourage you to take advantage of that. You do have to register for that. So it's best to register now when you feel good, as opposed to you want to use the benefit, and you're like, oh, I don't have the patience or the time, I don't feel good. So register when you're now, and then you can pull down the app, the MD Live app to your phone. It's awesome. Okay? All righty. Let's talk about your FSA. So if you'll go with me to page 27 of your book.
Before we move on, somebody asked, the plan is labeled PPO. I thought this is the hybrid, not the high deductible. Can you clarify?
Yes. PPO really means that you have in and out of network benefits. So they're both PPOs. The first is the hybrid copay plan, hybrid plan, and the second is the high deductible plan. I'm sorry, Excel uses titles that confuse people. Did I answer the question?
If you guys have more questions, oh, yep.
Okay.
We're good. Thanks, guys.
Okay, so I'm going to run through the highlights of what FSA is, flexible spending account. Enables you to set aside money on a pre-tax basis to pay for qualified medical, dental, or vision expenses for you and your family members. Okay, so if you are incurring expenses, why not use pre-tax dollars as opposed to giving the government your money? Okay, the taxes on $500, as an example, are about $100. If you know you're going to spend that money on healthcare or braces or glasses, whatever it may be, why give the government an extra $100? Keep it. So what you do with an FSA is you make an annual election at the beginning of the year. You're going to say, I would like to set aside $300 for this year, because I know I've got my prescriptions and I have to have a cavity filled, so on and so forth. Your employer is going to divide $300 by your number of payrolls and take that small amount out pre-tax, put it into your account for you. You can then use that money to pay those expenses. Now, you cannot change your election during the year without a qualifying event. So it's really important to not oversave. You cannot change your election during the year without a qualifying event. So once you commit to the 300, you're stuck with it. Okay, so you want to be planful. Okay, no, I've got these prescriptions and I pay $35 every month. I know I'm going to have a cavity filled and my dental plan is going to pay, you know, whatever % of that. My kids in braces, that's a ton of money. So set aside for what you know, not what if. Yes.
The nice thing about that, I've had the FSA for a few years, is that you don't have to wait until you accumulate the money to use it.
Yes.
So if you set aside $1,000 for the year, January 1st, you have $1,000 worth of work, you can use that $1,000 right off the top. So
Thank you. Yes, the money is available right away, your whole election. And then you just keep paying that small amount each payroll till it, you know, equals the annual election. So that's a lovely benefit of an FSA. Now, another reason you need to be careful with choosing your annual election is that there is what's called a use it or lose it rule here. It's a government reg, which says if you don't use all of your money by the end of the year, guess what happens to it? Sayonara. Okay, now, Arc Otsego has put what's called a grace period on this plan, which essentially extends the plan year 2.5 months. So you actually have through March 15th to incur an expense and use old year's money. Does that make sense?
There's also different websites that you can purchase, like to bring that down. Because the FSA website, you can buy certain medical supplies and stuff. Like I'll go on and I'll buy Band-Aids or whatever to kind of stock up any of the extra FSA store.
Yeah, so you have to be careful because the law changed a while back, so you could no longer run over-the-counter items through your FSA. So you got to be
You
careful.
have to go through the specific store that.
Yeah, you can't go buy a bunch of aspirin to use up your last $50 that you haven't. You can't do that anymore.
There was actually, I think there was some guidance in the booklet that says if you were prescribed that stuff,
Yes,
you can use it.
yes. If
For
you're
over-the-counter stuff.
Yes, like let's say your doctor prescribes you a particular vitamin to treat a medical condition. You could then run the vitamins through the plan because they were prescribed. But if you take vitamins just because you think they make you feel good, can't run them through.
Prenatals are usually covered through FSA.
Yeah, those would be prescribed. Yeah. So you got to be careful about the amount. The maximum amount you can set aside for an FSA for 2020 is $2,750. It just popped up $50 within the last 3 days. They issued that finally.
Nice. And this is only for the high deductible one?
No.
No,
So if you're on the hybrid plan,
you can use this.
you're going to have FSA. Yes.
They can't hear the questions that are being asked.
I'm
Can you
sorry.
just restate them before you answer?
Yes. So that question was, so if you're in the hybrid, you would use an FSA.
People are calling it the PPO.
Yeah, whatever you want to call it. PPO, copay plan, hybrid, FSA. Okay. So super opportunity to save on your taxes. You're going to have a card, like a debit card, right, that you can then use to pay your copays or pick up a prescription, whatever it may be. So that's a great benefit. The next is the HSA. Okay, so you flip to page 30. If you are in the high deductible plan, you'll use HSA. Okay? In order to have an HSA, you must be enrolled in a qualified high deductible plan by law. And you cannot have an HSA and an FSA at the same time. No. Double dip. Government says no way. Okay, here's how an HSA works. This is a phenomenal benefit. It is a much better benefit than an FSA, and here's why. You're gonna set aside money on a pre-tax basis to pay for those exact same qualifying health, dental, vision expenses for you and your family. Okay, but that account is owned by you. It is yours. So if you were to leave Arc Otsego, let's say you're going to move out of state and you have a bucket of money in there, that account is yours. And it remains yours. It continues to grow from year to year to year. If you have elected, let's say, $1,000, and you get to the end of the year and you've had a great health year, you haven't spent a dime of it, what happens to it? Just stays, it grows, it's yours, and you go into the new year now with a pot of money. Okay, so that is the tool that you use to manage your risk when you are in a high deductible. Okay. Because if you go into the high deductible plan because, well, I'm healthy. I haven't been to the doctor in 5 years. Why am I paying all this premium? I'm going in the high deductible. And then you go and break your leg. You say, oh, this plan sucks. It's not paying anything. No, it doesn't. It's a really good plan, but you have a deductible and you knew. So you prepare for that unexpected by setting aside money on a pre-tax basis, even if it's just a little bit each payroll, then that pot grows, and should something present itself, you've got now a pot of money. If nothing comes up, you're still building, right? I have a high deductible plan. I've had one for over 10 years. My family deductible is $7,200. Okay? I do all my preventive stuff for my kids and it's covered in full, but my son is a mountain biker. It's a very dangerous sport, right? I don't want to jinx us, but at some point he will crash. I have like $5,000 in my HSA building. And I just keep building it and building it and building it. If I don't use it, good for me. Here's why. When you turn 65, your HSA has some cool rules on it, which say you can use the money that's in your account for non-qualified expenses like a TV or a car or a vacation and not be penalized. You'll be taxed, which is fair enough, right? But no penalty. So these things are becoming supplemental retirement accounts for people. Now you cannot contribute to an HSA you cannot contribute to an HSA once you become enrolled in any form of Medicare. So if you turn 65 and you continue to work and you want to keep loading up your HSA, you call Social Security and say, do not put me in Part A. I don't want that. I'm employed. I have a great plan through my employer. I don't need Part A. And you can defer it until you actually retire. Okay, so super cool benefit. Very flexible. This one you can change your contribution anytime during the year. So you can increase it, decrease it, turn it off. You're not locked in like you are with an FSA. And the limits for this one are much larger. For 2020, a single can contribute $3,550. And if you have a family plan, this is on page 31, you can contribute $7,100. If you're over the age of 55, you can add another $1,000. It's called a catch-up contribution. So you have a much greater flexibility. Yes?
So if you contribute to this and you said as after 65, you're not penalized for making any, for buying a car.
Yeah.
What is the penalty if at 55 you want to take money out to buy a car?
Yeah, so the question for those on the line is, what if you use your HSA funds for a car, a non-qualified expense, before you're 65? You're gonna get a big, fat penalty.
Is it 10%, 20%?
20.
20, okay.
And be taxed. So
it's a 20% penalty on your, what's the 20% based? Is it 20%
on the amount,
income tax?
on the amount that you used to make a non-qualified purchase for the car. So let's say.
Does that come to a tax time? You have to, or I mean, I guess my question is, 20% withdrawal fee. Am I missing that?
I'm not, I believe it would be levied at the time of the tax filing, but I'm not 100% certain. I could find out and follow up with you. Yeah.
If it's similar to taking like an early retirement payment,
Sure.
It's at the end
you
of the
pay
year.
the penalty when you take the withdrawal, but you pay the taxes that you're gonna be fined on it when you do your taxes.
Yes, so you do not want to use your HSA money for non-qualified expenses before 65. You don't want to do that.
We had a question that somebody typed in, are prenatal vitamins covered under HSA or FSA?
Yes, they be prescribed to you by a doctor. Both. The lists are actually the same. Okay, so the same qualified expenses, they don't differ between an FSA and an HSA. There's actually a publication that you can get on the IRS.gov website. If you just punch in HSA or FSA qualified expenses on your Google, the publication will come up.
No amount rolls over for FSA, it's 100% loss if you don't use it all.
Yeah, so the question was, with an FSA, are all of the funds forfeited that are unused at the end of the year? You have the grace period,
Right.
which will give you an extra 2.5 months to spend down your money, but there is no rollover. Yeah, you forfeit all of the unused funds, which is not a situation I want to see you in.
So with the grace period, does that mean that you can still submit receipts from the previous year, or does it allow you to actually, like February 15th,
Yes.
go in and use it?
Yeah, so the question is about the grace period and how that works. A grace period extends the plan year. So you could incur an expense February 15th and still apply that against your 2019 balance. You then have to April 30th to submit your claims. So that's essentially the window, the run out window to get your old claims submitted. Okay? Okay. Any other questions on HSA, FSA? FSA is for hybrid, HSA, high deductible. Okay? Okay, so when you're choosing the plan that's right for you, you've got to look at how much does it cost me all year long out of my paycheck? What is the plan design? And what are my needs and the needs of my family? Right? If you have a significant procedure coming up, maybe the high deductible is not right for you this year. We're going to look at some case studies to show you that. Okay. So I think this will clarify for you. All right, so I'm going to run through here, getting short on time. So stop me if you need to, but I'm going to go pretty quick here. Okay, so these are the services rendered, how much the allowed amount was, what you'd pay out of your pocket if you're in the copay plan, and what you'd pay if you're in the high deductible plan. This is a single case study. So first you have an annual preventive visit with your primary care. How much does that cost? Nothing, right? Covered in full by law, both plans. Then you have a prescription that you take all year long. Let's say it's for high blood pressure. It's on the preventive drug list, okay? If you're in the copay plan, it's going to be a $5 copay because it's generic. And if you're on the high deductible plan, it's also a copay because it's on the preventive drug list. Okay, not subject to deductible because it's on that list. And then, let's say in the fall, you use a telemedicine visit because you think you've got this virus that everybody's passing around for a sore throat. That's a $10 copay. If you're on the hybrid, you're going to pay the whole amount, subject to deductible. If you're on the high deductible, $40. Okay, you add all of that up. So far, you've shelled out $70 out of your pocket if you're on the hybrid, or $100 if you're on the high deductible. Now, what did you pay out of your paycheck all year long, right? $1,200 if you're on the hybrid, or $660 if you're on the high deductible. Now you add all of that up, and you paid $510 more if you were in the hybrid. You see the difference? And what you should do is take that savings in the premium and stick it in an HSA. Okay, so if you are a person that utilizes your health plan very little, you do all of your preventive stuff and it's covered in full, why are you paying more for a plan you don't need? Maybe because you're scared of the risk? That's okay. Some people just want to know exactly what's got to come out of their pocket, and they're willing to pay more for that peace of mind. But if you're willing to take on a little bit of risk and use your HSA as the tool to manage that risk, the high deductible could be a better option. Does that make sense? Okay. Now the next one is a much different scenario. This is a family plan, lots going on here, right? So the husband has cancer and has surgery, costs about $55,000 in a blink of an eye. If you're on the copay plan, you've got your deductible to contend with, right? Because you had an inpatient stay. So first the $1,000, then the co-insurance behind it. Okay, he's going to get to his out-of-pocket max of $4,200. Remember, this one's embedded. Okay, the wife has her preventive visit, that's covered in full. Now dad has drug therapy for the cancer, he hit his out-of-pocket max. So everything else gets covered in full. And then the wife has an antidepressant, which is generic. That's a $5 copay. So now they've shelled out $4,260 out of their pocket. They're going to pay $4,200 out of their paycheck for a family plan, and you've got a total of $8,460. If you're on the high deductible plan, works very differently now. Now you have to meet the family deductible, right? Not embedded. So dad's going to hit the whole $3,600. Then the co-insurance is going to push them up to the out-of-pocket max, but he can't surpass the $6,650. Remember that individual protection I told you about? So they're not going to go to $7,200. He's going to stop at $6,650. Now, again, that same preventive visit, he's covered in full because he has hit his cap. And then the wife, again, has that prescription. They've hit their deductible, so now drugs are in a copay. They're paying a lot less in premium. So in this scenario, they are almost identical. And if they had been putting money into an HSA, they could pay that $6,700, some of it on a pre-tax basis. Does that make sense? Okay. You have two very, very good health plans. One is less expensive than the other for a reason, right? Which one is best for you and your family is dependent upon your needs and your willingness to take on a little bit of risk. Okay, I'm gonna zoom I'm gonna skip over this because you've heard me say this before. If you've come to these meetings in the past, these are all things that I've sort of touched on the way through on how you can save on healthcare costs. Okay, so I want to get you to the dental, and we're at an hour already. Can I keep going? Okay. Okay, so go to your book. Go to 32, 33, 34. Well, doesn't say 34.
I have a quick question. Is the next dental and then vision?
Yeah.
And then what is after that?
Them were
Okay.
done.
All right, so I'm gonna leave because I have separate for that.
Okay.
I'm good. I just wanted to make sure. Sorry
Okay.
for the interruption.
Okay, no worries.
We had a question. What is the process for submitting claims for
Appreciate
HSA?
What? I'm sorry.
What is the process for submitting claims for an HSA?
Okay, so with an HSA, your bank, whatever financial institution you open your HSA with, is going to give you a debit card and checks. Okay, so you'll use your card just like a credit card to pay your expenses. Now, one thing I did not mention that's super important with an HSA, the money has got to be in the account to spend it. That's different from an FSA where it's all available even though you haven't yet contributed it. So an HSA has got to be in there. So the beginning of the first year that you join a high deductible plan is always a little challenging because you don't have a lot in there yet. So sometimes people will front load them. You know, they'll say, let me at least get, you know, a couple $100 in there and then I'll change my payroll contribution down. Okay, so you're either going to use your card or it checks. You can also reimburse yourself from an HSA. So let's say it's the beginning of the year, you don't have anything in there, but you got to go pick up some prescriptions. You could wait till 6 months later when you've built up a pot of money now, write yourself a check for the amount that you spent in January. Just keep all your receipts. Okay, because you know, if you get audited by the IRS, you need to be able to show that you spent that money on legit expenses.
So deposits to the HSA can only come from the employer, or could I just go to the account and just say, go to the bank and
Yes.
deposit on my own?
Yes, so the question for those on the line is, can I put money into my HSA just on my own, or does it have to come through payroll deduction in my employer? No, you can walk into your bank and say, hey, I just got a nice tax return. I want to stick $500 into my account. Now, you're not getting the pre-tax basis or benefit at that point, so you would claim that $500 on your tax return so that you could reap the tax benefit.
So you'd be better off just changing the plan, your deduction through your employer for a temporary amount of time if you wanted
You
to
could.
offset that to get that benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So here's, oh, I clicked too far. Okay, dental. We have a change on the dental. Currently, Compton is your dental carrier. You are going to the Guardian come January 1st. You are going to get a new card. Please make sure you show your provider your card. Okay, there is going to be a savings as a result of moving to Guardian. Not in the premium, your contribution is going to remain exactly the same out of your paycheck, but the discounts that exist with the providers through the Guardian are going to be much better than they are currently. Okay, so when you have a service that you have to pay 80% of, you're going to be paying 80% of a smaller number. Okay, now we did a network analysis and we know that many of the dental providers that are being used now that are not in network will become in network with the Guardian. So those people are going to save money just for doing nothing. If your physician or your dentist is not a Guardian provider, you can continue to use that person and get the same benefit that you've been getting all along. Or you could make a decision to change to a Guardian dentist and get a better benefit. So this is going to be good for everybody. Your dentist will most likely, in almost every case, going to submit to Guardian on your behalf, and then Guardian will pay that provider. Okay, so that's a great change that the agency's making. The benefit design, which is in your booklet, is staying exactly the same. Okay? So your deductible, your coverage levels, nothing is changing. But you are going to pay less because Guardian has relationships with providers and have negotiated, agreed to accepted amounts that Compton doesn't have.
So the max, what is it, 1,200?
Yeah.
You will reach that slower.
Correct. Correct. Mary said for the annual max of $1,200, you're not going to hit it as fast. You're going to get more for your money. Okay, so that's a great change. Okay.
What is the orthodontic lifetime benefit?
So orthodontia has a lifetime max instead of an annual max. So each child covered could receive up to $1,000 in ortho benefits, but that's lifetime, not per year. Okay, is there a question, Danielle? Okay, I'm gonna do vision and get you guys out of here. I know you gotta get back to.
I'm sorry, just one quick question. Where it says family limit 3 per family, what does that mean?
So the question for those on the line is in regards to the deductible. So there's a $25 individual deductible, but family limit of 3 per family. That would mean if you had a family of 5, you're only going to pay $75. 25, 25, 25. Yeah, so if you have a really big family, only 3 deductibles would be at play.
The orthodontia minimum, does that transfer from what if you used it with Compton, is going to transfer to Guardian?
Yeah, so the question was, will the lifetime max for ortho transfer from a different carrier? In almost all cases, the answer is yes. Sometimes they slip through the cracks, but no. They pay attention. They get data from the previous carrier. I know. I agree with you.
Is there a waiting time for these dental benefits to go into effect?
None other than your eligibility. No. Okay, quick vision. So in your packet on page 37 are your vision benefits. They are staying exactly as they currently are. And those rates are also staying as they are. So how awesome, like nothing's going up. That's such a nice position for an employer to be in. And the benefits are getting better because your dental's improving. So this is through VSP, Vision Service Provider. And this is a really high level summary here, but then the details are on the following 2 pages. So I'm not going to go through that in the essence of saving time, but does anyone have a question?
Yeah, we'll be getting cards for vision too. So a lot of people come in and they ask for cards and we don't have any.
Yeah, so the question was, do we get cards for vision? No. Usually vision providers don't give a card because you go to, let's say you go into Vision Works as an example. They're going to ask you for your social security card. They pull you right up in the computer. So a lot of vision carriers don't even issue them. Any questions online? Oh my God, look at me like up close. Danielle, get over here and read that.
We can go to the Guardian and the VSP website to find out.
Yes, absolutely. So you can go to both the Guardian and VSP websites to look for participating providers. And that's always your best bet with any of the plans. Health, dental, vision, you're always going to get a better benefit by utilizing an in-network provider. Okay, any more questions online? Any other in the room? Okay, so we do have another slide, don't we? Okay, real super quick. Here's what you need to do. Think about which plan is best for you based on all that we've reviewed. If you're interested, I'm coming back on Tuesday, November 19th to do one-on-ones for those who might have, personal circumstance they want to run through. And Danielle has a sign-up sheet that you can grab a 15-minute block of time. So please do that in advance. And then you've got to do your DATIS online enrollment by the 22nd. So don't forget, because what happens if you don't do your enrollment online?
Mary's shooting yells at you.
Mary's
Not
going
eligible
to,
until the next year unless you have a qualifying event.
yeah, you're out of luck. So make sure you do what you need to do on all of that. Okay.
This is off benefits, and I've asked you this before, so I wasn't sure if you were expecting it. In the past, we've done lab work to get a deduction on our monthly premium. Is that no longer being offered through interactive?
Oh, the
health?
screenings? We're gonna do screenings again, right?
I have not heard a word. I sent you an email.
Oh, you're right.
They're usually done at this time, right?
Yeah, they're usually
Yeah.
done in
Usually-
October.
Usually done in October.
No, last year was the beginning of November.
Okay,
So.
there is not an intention to discontinue that. So we gotta
Right.
get
Yeah,
after
I
it.
emailed you, so
Yeah,
it's been crazy,
I
I
have
know.
bazillions of emails, yes. I'm
It's
so
only open
sorry.
enrollment season. No pressure, Susie.
Thank you.
All right, I just want to wrap everything up. Susie, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Everybody has the slideshow presentation. If you have any other questions, feel free to email them to me. I can shoot them over to Susie if I can't answer them myself. Other than that, as a reminder, open enrollment, you'll see the notifications in your E3 accounts starting on Monday. That will go for 2 weeks. As we mentioned, if you don't make any changes, if you don't enroll, it is a passive enrollment, so it will just roll over if you don't want any changes. If you are eligible for benefits right now and you do not enroll through open enrollment, the only time you can is if there's a qualifying event. Please email me if you have questions about what a qualifying event is. Other than that, November 19th, a lot of the spots are filling up in the late afternoon. I have sessions beginning at 10 o'clock, and we're open up until about 1:15 today. All the other sessions are booked up. If you would like to make an appointment, please email me with your preferred time, and I'll let you know if the slot is still available. Other than that, thank you very much.